Hello there. I am AmericanWalrus. This is Super Meat Boy Forever. This is the third game in the Meat Boy series. There's the original Flash game, Meat Boy, released in 2008 or something. Classic indie game, Super Meat Boy, which you'll see in Killing Pepsi's Run tomorrow morning, released in 2010. And then we have this, Super Meat Boy Forever, released in 2020. So looking forward to the next installment in like 2050 with Super Meat Boy Forever Extreme or something. System settings. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about this, everyone. Minor thing. I'm just gonna unplug something.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. The game should be playing music, right? Right now?
I don't hear anything on my end right now.
Yeah, go to audio, just double check. This is gonna be a dumb thing. Try and just restart the game real quick.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worst case, like launch YouTube and play a video because it should be sending. It's just not sending anything. There it is. Okay, we're stupid.
I hear.
All right, we're all good. We're all good.
Okay, cool.
Hello, everybody. All right, take the floor.
Did we get the intro? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Super Meat Boy Forever. So this is gonna be. This game is kind of similar visually to the original Super Meat Boy, but it moves very differently. It's an auto runner, and you might be thinking, how can you speedrun an auto runner? Well, you'll see. But it's also somewhat procedurally generated. So the developers handmade a bunch of individual level sections called chunks, and then this seed here determines how those chunks get arranged into levels. So like any game with seeds, there's kind of two types of categories. There's random seed, where you don't know what you're going to get. You have to be prepared for anything. You have to, recognize levels quickly, have strats for all of them, have a lot of experience with all of them. Then there's set seed, where you can pick any seed you want. You can get really good at that particular seed, optimize everything. This is going to be an 80% random seed run. So this random seed it gave me here, I'm just going to take this and beat the game from a new save with no restrictions. There's no like huge game-breaking bugs in this game, at least that we know of, so it's essentially going to look like an 90% no major glitches run, just a bunch of fun platforming. Time will start when I press play, so you ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go! So there's 5 worlds in this game, at least 5 worlds in the any percent route. Each of them have 6 levels and a boss. As you could see when I entered the forest there. You only have to beat 4 out of 6 of the levels though to unlock the boss. So the any percent route is just 4 normal levels, and then the boss, and then repeat. Another thing is these, you notice these 2 timers up in the top left and top right. So the top right timer is called the speedrun timer. It's not there by default, but you can turn it on in the options. The developers actually created that timer specifically by our request, so big shout out to them. It's essentially loadless RTA, but there's a couple subtle differences that don't really matter that much. That's what we use on the leaderboard, so that's essentially the timer that people are talking about. Although my estimate 30 minutes, that's real time, obviously. the timer in the top left, that's used by the game for A+ ranks, where if you... I got the A+ there, so if you beat a level fast enough, you unlock the Dark World version. This is any %, so those don't matter. We're not going to be playing any of the Dark World levels. It also has you can see the par time when you enter the level, so that kind of gives you an idea of, like, if the par time's super long, you might want to exit out and enter a different level instead. Because remember, you can choose which 4 levels you play. But it's obviously not a great, it's not perfectly accurate to how long it'll actually take, both because of, like, skips, movement. Also, there are some things that affect the in-game timer that don't affect the speedrun timer. Such as, like, when I hit into this enemy, or when I hit an enemy, there'll be a little bit of freezing in the in-game timer, but there's no freezing in the speedrun timer, which is what we actually care about. So each level kind of adds at least one new mechanic. The first one was pretty much just me maneuvering around spikes. Then we got some enemies, we got some breakable blocks, and now we have these big saw blades that chase you. Those mechanics kind of stack up, so each level will have the mechanics of the previous levels in it. So there's a lot of different stuff to work with by the time you get to the end of the game. And as for the movement, you can kind of tell just by looking, but there's basically 3 things you can do, which is jump, punch, and dive. So there's one button that controls, or there's a jump button, and if you jump well in midair, you will punch forwards. And your punch speed is a lot faster than your normal walking speed, so you pretty much want to be punching always when you can. If you're moving on flat ground, you pretty much want to be doing jump, punch, repeat as fast as possible. That's called quick dashing, and it's pretty much the main, like, movement thing that you have to get good at. And I don't know if you can hear my key taps over the microphone, hopefully not, but there's quite a rhythm to it. So now we're in the second world here, the clinic. The first 2 worlds are pretty analogous to the original game. We have, instead of the forest and the hospital, we have Chipper Grove and the clinic. So different names for the same thing, basically. After that, it starts to diverge a bit. Now we have these needles where it's kind of like running out of breath in the water. If you spend too much time in them, if you let that red circle fill up, you die. But other than that, they don't hurt you. So just go fast. Sometimes you have to go out of your way in order to avoid staying in them for too long. And I forgot to mention it while I was doing it, but fun little Easter egg. The first boss is called Big Slugger, which is a reference to the first boss in the original game is called Little Slugger. So, new game, bigger, badder enemies. Now we got fans, another repeat from the original game. The world record for this category is, again using the speedrun timer in the top right, 16:45 by Insane. My PB is, I think, 19:11, and it's theoretically possible that I could PB if I got a really good seed, but it's probably not going to happen, because my PB is pretty old. So the way these chunks work is every level is made of 7 chunks, but there's a pool of, like, I don't know, 30 to 50 chunks for each level that you could get in an any % run. So there's only, like, maybe at best a 20% chance of getting any given chunk in a run, so you gotta be ready for whatever. And some levels have particular chunks that are always at the beginning, kind of introduction chunks this is one of those levels. So I knew this chunk was going to be here, and I know there's a particular skip that I want to go for. 4 times the charm. Yeah, so now I'm like up on the top here, and that allows me to totally skip past into this area that I shouldn't be allowed to go and save a bunch of time. And it kind of depends which chunk you get afterwards, whether or not that actually ends up saving time, so I got pretty lucky there.
While we got a moment, I'd like to shout out that we got a $10 donation from Zachary Bredberg. Thank you, thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, so now we're on to the second boss called Manipulator. Other than the seed, this is actually a very deterministic game if given the same seed. This is, as far as I know, the only instance of RNG beyond that. These waves of glass that he sends out, there's 3 different options, and which one comes out is just random. But it doesn't really make a big difference. It's like, at most, a few frames. Now we're on to Tetanusville. So in the first 2 worlds, I was just doing the first 4 levels, but that's not, you don't have to do that, it's just that those levels are generally the fastest in those particular worlds, but that's not the case here. So 3.5 and 3.6 are particularly fast, and so I'm going to be making sure to do those instead of some of the earlier, slower levels. Usually 3.3 is slow, so you either do 1, 5, and 6, and then either 2 or 4, depending on how the par times look. So if I enter 3.2 and it's like a minute 20 or more, I'm probably going to exit and go to 3.4 instead. Let's see. Okay, minute 9. That's pretty good. So yeah, random seed in this game, there's a lot of luck, obviously, but it's not, like, depending on which seed you get. But, you know, for the most part, it's not going to be a huge difference in how fast each seed is optimally. The biggest single skip that you want to get if you're going for, like, a record pace run is there's a particular chunk in 5-3 where you can essentially jump over the entire level. I'll explain more when we get to that world, how that works. But that can save like 30 seconds easily, and is pretty much necessary to get the record at this point. And again, there's somewhere around 15 to 20% chance of that maybe. I don't really know. I'm just making up numbers. Uh-oh. I've got to take this ball guy all the way down here with me. I'm not doing very well. Come on. Okay. There we go. There's just a bunch of little skips in this game. It's hard to point them all out, but here's another one. This is another level with a particular intro chunk, so that first chunk is always going to be there. And it's not hard, but you have to act pretty much immediately. So you just have to know what's coming. This is actually pretty bad for this level, looking at the par time. Oops. This is the kind of game where you die a lot. but they're fast deaths, so it doesn't matter too much. There's 3 speeds of these conveyors here. The green ones are like slightly faster than your running speed, or slightly slower, excuse me. The yellow ones are exactly equal to your running speed. So if you stand on them in the wrong direction, you'll just stand still, and the red ones are faster. Okay, this is interesting. I'm gonna just try and pull off the strat and then explain it afterwards. Uh-oh. Okay, I don't think that's gonna work. I missed it too many times. There's some cool stuff you can do with pause buffering there, where basically you can get in hits faster than like the game, faster than you normally can, and so you can beat this boss in 1 cycle when normally you need 2. Ah, shit. Okay, at least I didn't die. Cool. 3 worlds down, 2 to go. The worlds definitely get harder, or at least longer, the further out you go. This is actually probably one of the hardest levels in the entire game, especially as a new player, because these orbs are very, like, strange. It takes a while to get a feel for them because they're not, like, linear. They kind of move all around. And if you touch them without punching them, they kill you. Sometimes they're useful though, so if you do punch one, it gives you kind of a charge that you can then release in order to shoot out a huge punch there. There's a 10% chance of that fist you shoot out being red, and it does nothing, it's just a cosmetic thing. So I skipped 4-2 because it's kind of hard to notice unless you know what to look for, but the par time was 1:40, which is like really slow, and that level is pretty much always at like 1:30 or more, which is not what you want. It's like more than twice as much as this one. The mechanic that 4-2 adds is the TNT here, and then 4-3 adds these fill-in blocks. So, and the TNT kind of, you have to hit it a couple times and wait for it to explode, so a level based entirely around that is usually pretty slow. Now we've got these directional things where instead of punching when you jump in midair, you switch direction or go up. Makes for some interesting kind of like puzzle platforming almost. There's some cool skips in this level too. We'll see if I get any of them. That's close. Whoops. I still sometimes forget what the strat is for a particular chunk. There's a lot of things to keep track of. That warp zone up there, or that like glitchy oval, is a warp zone, and that's not important for the any percent category, but for 100%, each world has one warp zone in a random location, and you need to find it, you need to get to it, and then once you unlock it, it gives you it's like a mini game that's kind of totally different gameplay from the rest of the game, and it's pretty cool. There's like a punch out one, there's a F-Zero minigame. I can't remember what the others are at the moment. But yeah, this level is pretty trippy. It's oh shit. It's one of my favorites, but it's definitely one of the easiest ones to mess up. skip there. So this is another boss it's supposed to take 3 cycles, meaning 3 times Dr. Fetus spawns, because he has 50 HP and there's only enough time to hit him 24 times before he disappears. So it's like just barely not enough. There's a couple ways you can get around that, one of which I'm going to try right here. Okay, I got it. I don't know if that actually was faster than a 3 cycle, but it's fun to get. I just unlocked some new characters here. You notice the speedrun timer pauses on character select screen, so it's actually faster to switch back to Meat Boy, because that new character, Meat Ninja, his spawn animation is 1 frame slower than Meat Boy's. That's also the same reason I'm using Meat Boy instead of Bandage Girl, because Bandage Girl spawns like, I think it's 4 frames slower. So if I had stayed on Meat Ninja, I would have lost 4 frames plus however many times I died, which is probably going to be at least a few. This is one of the slowest chunks. Shit. Oh man. What? I don't even know what to do now. I just wasted a lot of time. These black hole things are what I was talking about earlier that allows you to do the huge game-breaking, not game-breaking, but like level-breaking skip. There's one chunk in a couple levels where you can go diagonally up and to the right. Oh man, I missed a skip there. But you can go diagonally up and to the right and just go over the entire level. There was actually another one of those on 5.1, but it got patched like a couple weeks after release. So I mentioned earlier that some things affect the in-game timer. This level is the biggest example of that. So there's kind of 2 mechanics that get added. These super fast spiky squares and these eyes that slow down time. They slow down the movement of every object except for you. They also slow down the in-game timer. So even though the par time is 43, that's really equivalent to like way higher than that. Because it's 43 after the timer was slowed down. There's a bunch of like small skips or really fast skips you can do on this level where you just barely duck underneath one of these spikes and don't need to slow down time. They're usually pretty inconsistent, but a death only takes like half a second, so it's still worth going for. Now we pray that I get the skip chunk. But I don't think I'm going to. There's a difficulty rating. Each chunk has a difficulty rating, and that doesn't affect which chunks get picked, at least among the ones that can be picked in any percent. What it does affect is once the chunks are randomly selected, the difficulty rating determines what order they appear in. So the chunk I was hoping for has a low difficulty rating, meaning that if we did see it, it would probably be near the beginning. Okay, 5-4, the final normal level in the game. Also my favorite. It's like really counterintuitive to figure out on the go. There's these green squiggly blocks that toggle when you press the jump button. These pink ones toggle when you press the dive button. Which is not the same thing as toggling when you actually jump or punch, because if you punch in, or if you press jump in midair after you've already punched, nothing happens movement-wise, but the green blocks still switch. So there's some opportunities for speedy strats with that, where you press the button like 3 times in midair. Okay, we're almost done. This is the final boss, Omega Alpha. When this game first came out in December 2020, a bunch of people from the Super Meat Boy speedrunning community did a race of it with no prior information. And when we got to this boss, everyone was kind of like, what the hell? I remember for me it took me like almost as much time as the entire rest of the game combined. It's not actually that hard, it's just like tricky to figure out what was going on at first. So there's going to be... Time does not end when the health bar on the bottom reaches 0. It ends shortly after that. There's kind of a fake final hit before the real one. Okay, and now. So 2021 according to the speedrun timer. Looks like we're at 22:31 real time. There you have it. That is Super Meat Boy Forever, any % random seed. So like I mentioned, we only saw like 20% of the chunks on the levels I actually did play, and then there's all the other light levels I didn't play. There's the entire Dark World. There's this other World 6 where you unlock levels by beating the corresponding warp zones. Also you can do New Game Plus once you've beat the game, unlock new characters, there's pacifiers to collect, so yeah, there's a ton of content that I didn't show off here. Fun game, check it out. Yeah, that's all I've got.
Alright, any other shoutouts you wanted to give or anything like that?
No, I don't have anything. Shout out to everyone who's played this game, speedrun it. You know who you are.
Alright, thank you so much. It was a really sick run. We'll be here with TMNT soon. Thank you so much.